My husband wanted to open up our marriage, and now I'm dating his boss. So now he wants to close it. Let me start this by saying I didn't mean to start dating his boss. It all happened accidentally. My husband and I have been married for almost 8 years now, and we have always had a healthy marriage and great intimacy life, or so I thought. It came completely out of the blue when my husband sat me down a few months ago and said that he was feeling unsatisfied with our physical connection and he needed something more to be able to be fulfilled. I was so confused. We are intimate a couple of times a week, and he never gave any indication he was feeling unhappy in the bedroom. I was feeling hurt before he even dropped the bomb on me that he wanted to open up our marriage. I felt so small and unwanted, and he rambled on wanting to experience more freedom, but he assured me that he loved me and he wanted to stay together. I asked him why I wasn't enough for him and if there was anything I could do to make him happier in the bedroom or in our marriage in general. But all he said was that it had more to do with his masculinity than me. It didn't make me feel better, but I love him and we had already been together for so long. So reluctantly I agreed and we decided to be open from that day on. Right there, that's where you failed the test, right? If you had said, okay, you want to open it up, then we're no longer married. Guarantee 90% he would have backed up. He was trying to see where he could draw the line with you, and the fact that you said we have been together for so long, you're scared of like trying to find someone else. They used that against you. Our only terms was that we had to disclose to one another when we would start seeing people. The first couple of weeks were excruciating. He immediately started seeing a woman from his office, and I would just stay at home and cry myself to sleep while I pictured him out with the younger, more attractive woman. I was devastated for a while and honestly had zero interest in dating anyone other than my husband. But after 5 months of him dating one girlfriend and spending most nights with her instead of at home with me, I decided that I deserved to experience some freedom as well. I made a Tinder account one night while he was out with his girlfriend, and I was surprised when I got over 100 matches on the very first night. No one was really catching my attention until I matched with this one very handsome older man. He seemed very successful and he was a gorgeous silver fox. I ended up messaging him and we went out a couple of days later. I remembered the feeling of waiting for him at the bar, and it felt nice to have romantic butterflies for the first time in almost a decade. The date went amazingly and we went to see each other and eventually slept together. It was one of the most thrilling, exotic nights of my life. I hate to say it, but he was a much more talented lover than my husband, and I guess because he was older, he had more experience. Anyways, I told my husband about my boyfriend, and he honestly seemed like he didn't believe me. He literally patted me on the head and said, "Aw, good for you, honey," before heading out the door to spend the night with his girlfriend. Things got messy in a way I could never have anticipated. I knew the situation was sort of rocky, but now I truly feel like I'm living inside a soap opera. Yesterday, my boyfriend texted me asking if he left a manila folder in my car the last time we saw each other. I found the folder and he asked if I could drop it off at his job. I was off that day and figured they were important work documents, so I gathered the folder and a little snack and he sent me his location so I could come drop it off. You can imagine how stunned I was when I followed the address and it took me to my husband's place of work. I had no idea that he and my husband worked together, and all I knew was that he was the head of whatever company he worked for and he held the highest position in his office. He never spoke much about his work and we just liked to relax when we hung out together. Well, I walked into the office feeling awkward about possibly seeing my husband. I walked to my boyfriend's office and he came out to take the folder from me. He thanked me and gave me a little kiss before going back. When I turned around, of course, my husband happened to be walking by at that exact moment. He had obviously seen his boss kiss me and realized he had been my boyfriend all along. His mouth made the perfect O shape and there was hurt creeping into his eyes. I felt sort of embarrassed at that moment, even though I had done nothing wrong, so I just said hi to my husband and quickly left the office. When my husband finally got home, he broke down in tears and said how I could do this to him. I reminded him that the entire situation was his idea in the first place, and that's when my husband said that he was willing to close the marriage if it meant I would stop seeing his boss. The thing is, I have real feelings for my boyfriend and I feel like my husband is being controlling and unfair. I find myself doubting my entire marriage and I think I might end up having to choose between the two of them. Let me tell you what happened, okay? He found someone that he liked at work and he wanted to get a little frisky, and what he did is that he opened his marriage, right? Forced you, manipulated, gaslight you into opening your marriage so that he could be a horn dog, thinking that you would never ever be with someone. And the fact that you found someone handsomer, more flexible, financially more richer than him, is killing him inside. It was never about opening up the marriage. It was about him fulfilling his own desires. Now that he's getting a taste of his own medicine, he wants to close it. Bye. The last time I posted, my husband had just found out about his boss and me dating after my husband saw his boss kiss me at his place of work. He put the pieces together and it made him upset enough to ask me to close the marriage back up. I was so torn. I felt bad to see my husband hurting, but he had left me in a place of hurt for so long after asking for this arrangement in the first place. I admit I was tempted by the things my husband said in the conversation where he asked to close our relationship. Again, he just kept saying over and over that he would be better and committed. He kept saying I was the only thing he needed in the world, and he had been blind to that before. These are all words I have been waiting and wishing to hear for so long, yet hearing them now, I felt nothing but pity for my husband. I still loved him. We have been together for almost 10 years, and what I felt for him was incredibly strong after being life partners for this long, but I still love myself more. And as I said in my initial post, I have strong feelings for my boyfriend already. I told my boyfriend that I loved him, but I had to stay in this relationship too, and I didn't want to close our marriage back up. He was a mess at this answer. At one point, he got on his knees to beg me to reconsider, but I stood firm. I wouldn't hurt myself again to prioritize my husband's feelings. For the next couple of months, my husband went through a disorienting array of behaviors towards me. For the first few months, he was incredibly loving and attentive to me. He was cooking for us every night and insisted we had dinner almost every night together at home. He bought me flowers every day for 2 months and tried to initiate to sleep with me literally every night. These are things he's never really done to me before, so I was surprised and happy with all of these changes. Although it did seem sort of performative of him to only start being a good husband now in an effort to get me back for himself. If he really did love me, where had this treatment been before? He still seemed sad on the nights when I left him to go see my boyfriend, and I noticed him seeing his own girlfriend less. Anyways, I was feeling conflicted, but my boyfriend and I's relationship continued to blossom as we learned more about each other and kept spending time together. About a month ago, my boyfriend had taken me on a very luxurious, intimate date. He reserved an entire restaurant for us and arranged a helicopter ride for us after dinner. It was such a beautiful and romantic night. We had an amazing time together. There was no special occasion, and when I asked him why he did all of this, he said he just wanted to show me how much he appreciated his time with me and I deserved to be treated like a catch that I am. Before I left my boyfriend's house the next morning, I broke down crying while venting to him, saying that I wished my situation could be less complicated and that I was sorry if he felt like our relationship was unconventional because I was still a married woman. My boyfriend just listened and held me as I cried. He held me and stroked my hair and said he didn't care about my husband. He was just grateful for any time he got to spend with me and that I was a blessing in his life and he was just happy. He was able to meet a wonderful woman like me. He got up to make me my favorite flavor of tea. He found out my favorite brand of tea a month ago and kept the stock at his apartment since then. When he handed me the tea, he looked into my eyes and asked if it could be his turn to be honest with me. That's when he told me that he had never met anyone like me and he had fallen in love with me. As soon as he said that, something just felt so right in my body and mind. I said it back to him and we cried happy tears together. We didn't worry about anything else at that moment. We just enjoyed the vulnerability. Nothing could ruin that moment for us. Or so I thought. But I still don't regret telling him the truth about my feelings. I do love him, but I wish it hadn't resulted in the mess that it did after my boyfriend returned to work after the date. I guess he started telling some of his coworkers about how well his relationship has been going, and it must have gone back to my husband. My husband didn't react well, and I almost dropped my phone when he called me the other day from the police station. That's when I found out that my husband had attacked my boyfriend in their place of work. Apparently, he had overheard some people talking about how his boss had been bragging about his partner, and it had sent him over the edge. He sounded like a jealous child over the phone. He had entered his boss's office in a jealous fit of rage and tried to punch him straight in the face. When my boyfriend deflected, my husband picked up a coffee mug and smashed it across his head. The cops had arrested him in front of his entire office, and I assumed my boyfriend had gone to the hospital for a head wound. My husband spoke on the phone with so much hate and bitterness. It was during that call that I realized the sane, good man I had once married was long gone. And the last bit of love I had for him wilted inside of my chest as he spoke about himself. As if he was a victim of an unhinged criminal who attacked another man for his own ignorant reasons. He said that he just couldn't stand his boss keeping us apart and he had just gotten so angry after hearing that he was talking about me as if I was his own wife. I said nothing on the phone. I just thought of the choices I faced. I could go bail my husband out of the police station, or I could go visit my boyfriend in the hospital. I am Team Silver Fox.
Story time about my toxic foster family. So a little background information. Whenever this all happened, I was 19 years old and I was already out of school. But I had been adopted by a family whenever I was 16 years old. And at this point, they had been fostering my brother for about a year. So the only things that they knew about me is whatever my brother told them. Whenever I was 17, my sister ended up passing away and I went into a really deep depression where I would wake up and go to sleep crying for months on end. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty neglected. Like, my family would get $800 to $1,000 every month for me, and I never saw a dime of that money, let alone we would only go shopping probably once a year for clothes. And I never really got to go out. Well, when I went to them about being depressed, they said that if I didn't feel okay after vacation, they would get me help. Well, they lied because it got worse and they didn't really care. Everybody was getting paid to do chores except for me, and I literally had so much more to do than everybody else in the house.